Today, we're talking about thumbnails. If you want more views on YouTube, you have to make better thumbnails. This is such a critical piece that most people overlook, because here's the truth that will really shock you. The game of YouTube, it's not about who can make the best videos. It's really about who can get the most people to click their thumbnails and then watch a great video. It seems trivial, but it's actually the thumbnails that can make or break a channel. Now, I've been studying the biggest YouTube channels that are out there, and I've worked with a lot of your favorite creators. And it turns out they're all using the exact same thumbnail strategy. So in this video, I'm going to break the whole thing down. This is the 5-step playbook for making irresistible thumbnails that will supercharge your views. By the way, I'm Joey Wilder. I've worked with tons of different creators. I've done millions of views throughout every channel, and content is literally all I do all day long. All right, before we get into the tactical steps, let me quickly show you how powerful thumbnails really are. Now, one of my clients' best performing videos just did over 1 million views. Here's the kicker. We actually made that same video months earlier and posted it with a different thumbnail on a different channel. That version, it capped at about 1,700 views. Same video. The only difference was the channel and the thumbnail. That single thumbnail change has now driven 6 figures in revenue for their business. That's how important thumbnails are. Let's dive in. Let's talk about viewer psychology and how thumbnails actually work. Before we get into the 5 tactical steps to make a killer thumbnail, we need to understand how viewer psychology actually works. Because if you don't understand how people choose what to watch, you'll never win. Now, here's how it actually works when someone scrolls YouTube. There are 3 psychological steps a viewer goes through when deciding to click. Step 1 is what I call the visual stun gun. They're scrolling, they're browsing, they're not really thinking, but then boom, something catches their eye. It's not even about understanding what the video is yet. It's just something visually interesting enough to break their scroll. That's what I call the visual stun gun. Step 2, title value hunting. Now that you've caught their attention, they look down at the title, and this is where the value calculation happens. They're asking themselves, what is this video really about? Is it worth my time? What's in it for me? And this is why your title and thumbnail work together. They're not separate. This combo is what's called YouTube packaging. Now in step 3, we do what I call visual validation. Now if the title sounds valuable, they look back up at the thumbnail. They're trying to validate, does this thumbnail make me trust that I'll actually get what was promised in the title? It's that final confirmation moment before they click. So the actual flow of attention is this: thumbnail, title, thumbnail again. That's the whole decision loop, and it usually happens in less than 2 seconds. And if anything breaks down at any of those 3 steps, no click, no views. So if you want to make thumbnails that convert, you need to win all 3 moments. Now, I'm going to break down how to actually win at each of the 3 psychological moments. Starting with number 1, which is the visual stun gun. Your first job is to make someone stop scrolling. This means your thumbnail has to stand out in the feed. And it's not about being pretty, it's about breaking the pattern. And to do this, you need to use one of these tactics. It needs to be bold in contrast and color. Now think light on dark or category contrast. A face with a powerful emotion, surprise, shock, fear, joy. A simple, visually punchy graphic, large, bold numbers or words, and an element that looks slightly out of place or strange. A minimal layout with massive clarity. You don't want it to be noisy, but you do want just enough confusion to make someone curious. But here's the trick. Only use 2 to 3 elements. Thumbnails are tiny. If you overload them, they'll just be noise. You're not trying to explain the video here. You're just trying to stun them so they stop and look at the title. Now, step 2 is title value hunting. Once the thumbnail has done its job, the viewer drops down to the title and they're asking, is this going to be worth it for me? So your title needs to trigger one of 2 loops. 1, a desire loop, and this is when they're saying, I want this result, give me the solution now. And the other is an interest loop. What happens next? I have to know. You're creating an open loop for them. For example, write a killer script that keeps viewers hooked. That's a desire loop. It solves the pain of making content no one finishes. But if the title was, he tried to write a script with no plan, That's an interest loop. You're curious what happened. You don't know what happened to him unless you watch that video. Both work. You just need to know which game you're actually playing. And step 3 is visual validation. Now they go back up to the thumbnail and they ask, do I believe this will actually deliver the thing the title promised? That means your thumbnail needs to support, not repeat the title. If the title is the what, the thumbnail is the how it might look or feel. Think of it like this. The title gives clarity and the thumbnail adds trust and emotional punch. That is the full cycle. And when you design with that psychology in mind, everything changes. Now, let's get on to the tactical steps. This is what I call the 5-step playbook for making winning thumbnails. Now that you understand the psychology, let's break down the actual playbook. This is the exact 5-step system I use for every thumbnail I've created for myself and hundreds of clients. Step 1 is you treat the thumbnail like the product. Stop treating thumbnails like it's the last thing you do. You need to treat them like the only thing that matters. Because truthfully, if they don't click, they don't watch. I used to spend 20 hours making a video and 20 minutes on a thumbnail. Now I spend just as much time on the thumbnail as the video itself. And if you can, outsource this to a professional, but even if you do it yourself, treat it with the same level of effort as the content. Before you design anything, ask yourself, what does this video help someone achieve? What pain are they feeling that this video solves? Then, how can I trigger that desire in a way that doesn't set off the BS detector? Sometimes that means coming at it sideways. You package around the problem that leads to the desire instead of the desire itself. Now, step 3 is when you concept the elements in your layout. Now, during this step is when you pick 3 elements max from the 7 that we talked about earlier. Now, one could be a face with emotion, another could be a visual cue or a symbol, a large text or number. Think dollar signs, money earned, Stripe payment, things of that sort. Red arrows or circles pointing. Aesthetic imagery, something that's semi-off-putting, a collage design, strong color contrast, orange, black, neon green, yellow. And sketch a few of those compositions or do whatever you need to do in your creative process. It's important to remember that you don't need to be a designer. Just get the idea down, then choose your layout. It could be a centered subject, balanced sides, asymmetrical, which is a subject on one side, contrast on the other with text. Or it could be split screen, A versus B, before, after, then, now. Composition matters more than you think. And people process layout in milliseconds. Now, step 4, you design with clarity and punch. Now it's time to build it out. It's important to use bold contrast. Think light versus dark, complementary colors. Zoom in on faces and text. Mobile users need clarity. Some people have small phones and they can hardly see. You have to come out as noticeable. You need to make the emotion, and then you need to make the emotion readable from a thumbnail-sized image. If you're using text, make it emotional, not redundant. So when it comes to redundancy, an example of this would be script writing tips. A better version would be, this is basically cheating. You can see how one invokes emotion and the other kind of feels redundant, like, oh, more script writing tips. And this next tip is use graphics to visualize the transformation or the result. This is the part where your thumbnail becomes not seen, but felt. Have you ever been scrolling and you see a thumbnail that just triggers an emotion? And step 5 is test everything. Never just post a thumbnail and hope. We test 3 variations minimum using YouTube's A/B testing tool. And even if one seems perfect and the data currently says it's great, we let the data over time decide. Because great channels test dozens of variations, and the winners will often surprise you. If you want extra help, tools like Thumbnail Test, TubeBuddy, vidIQ can help speed this up. And here's a few bonus tips. Avoid putting key elements in the bottom right corner. This is because the timestamp covers it. Before you start, run a quick photo shoot of yourself with varied expressions, different poses, lighting, a shocked, a surprised, a serious, and emotional, so that way you have a backlog of thumbnail photos you can actually use. It's important to remember to use shadows to separate subjects from the background. Canva has a simple glow feature that makes this really easy. And most importantly, build a swipe file of thumbnails that catch your eye. Clickbait isn't bad unless the content doesn't deliver. And that's it. That is the full system. It goes from psychology to desire mapping, stun gun, value loop, visual validation, design, and test. Use this every time, and your click-through rates will never be the same. Now let's bring this all together. If you want more views on YouTube, the game is not just about making great videos. The game is about getting people to click. That means your thumbnail and title are the gateway to everything. They're not just accessories. They're the front door to your content. So here's the full breakdown. You need to understand viewer psychology, and it's important to remember they go through these 3 steps. The thumbnail stuns them, the title sells them, and the thumbnail then confirms trust. You build a swipe file, study what actually grabs you while scrolling, and break down why it works. Use the 5-step system, approach it like it's a product. Remember to desire map, lay out concept, have a punchy design, and relentless testing. Test, iterate, test again, and let the data decide, not your gut or your intuition. And remember to always build for mobile, because 70% of your audience is on their phone. And the last thing, you don't need to be a pro designer to make thumbnails that work. You just need to understand humans. And if you know what people want, you know what makes them click, if you can tap into curiosity, desire, trust, and even just a little bit of confusion, you'll win. Because YouTube isn't fair, it's rigged in favor of the people who understand packaging. So if you want to grow, start there. Make people stop scrolling, make them care, and let the content take it from there. If you liked this video and found anything valuable, do me a favor, hit the like button, leave a comment down below, and check out the rest of the videos in this series, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.
I hate the small talk, please quit telling me about you.